still, my soul, the hour is hastening on, when we shall be forever with the Lord. When disappointment, grief and fear are gone, sorrowful God, love's purest joys restored. Be still, my soul, when change and tears are past, all safe and blessed, we shall meet at last. In you I rest, in you I find my hope, in you I trust. You'll never let me go. I place my life within your hands alone. Be still, my soul. Sing it again. In you I rest, in you I found my hope, in you I trust. You'll never let me go. I place my life within your hands alone. Be still, my soul. Be still, my soul. You can have a seat.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Foundry. My name is Austin Hedge. If we've not had the chance to meet, I'm the associate pastor here at the Foundry. We are excited that you are here with us as we are continuing on our series, Turning the Gym. Before we dive into that content today, I just want to draw your attention, if this is your first time here, to this card in the seat back in front of you. This is a way for you to get connected here at the Foundry. If you've never signed up to receive our emails, I'd really encourage you to do that, especially with these holiday weekends coming up, with Christmas Eve, with the 29th of December, so that way you know what's happening here at the Foundry, and you're not going to show up at a time where no one else is here. So make sure to sign up today, putting your name and your email address. You can drop those in the wooden boxes in the back of the room. If you are ready to take a next step here at the Foundry, the other side is for you. Here each and every week, it takes a large amount of people to pull off a Sunday morning. We have the band up here. We have the production team in the back of the room. We have kids, people downstairs that are helping care and teach our children. There are people out front that greeted you to say hello. And there's a breakfast as well that happens before most of us even get here for people in the neighborhood who need a little bit extra help. So if you want to get connected to any of those teams, the best way to do that is to check the box on here. And that way you can help be a part of what's happening here. We can always use your help. We can always get you connected to any of the teams here at the Foundry. So in Greek mythology, there's this story of this father and son named Daedalus and Icarus. You maybe have heard of them. Daedalus is this man. He's the father. He's an inventor. Most famously, he's known for creating the labyrinth, which a lot of us have heard of. He works hand in hand with the king to create some of his different inventions. Daedalus is a man who really cares about himself and no one else. He's pretty deceitful. He's pretty cunning. And he looks out for himself alone. And because of this, King Minos decides, hey, I can't have this guy around. I need to put him in jail. So he locks him up. He locks up his son Icarus with him. They're locked in this jail that is this tower with ocean all around them so that they cannot escape. But Daedalus is in this place, and as I said, he's kind of a deceitful man. He's a cunning man. He's like, I can't serve out a time sentence here. I need to get out. I need to figure out a way to escape. So he crafts this idea. He crafts this situation where he starts to think, okay, well, how could I get out of this? I think the best way for me to do that is to create some wings, to build wings that I could fly away on, or fly away with, and my son as well can fly. So he convinces the guard to let his son go to the marketplace because his son is kind of a scrawny guy. He's young. And he comes back with some wood. He comes back with some wax. He comes back with some feathers. And they began to fabricate wings that each of them can wear and fly out of this tower. Daedalus knows that this is his best chance for survival, but it's terrifying to stand at the top of a tower and think about jumping off and hope that this will work. But he chooses to do it. He jumps off and begins flying, begins soaring. His son, not too long after, begins soaring as well. He jumps out of the tower, Icarus does. And Daedalus is so pleased with himself. I've done such a great thing. I've gotten away from this king. I've deceived everyone, and now I'm going to be free. And then suddenly he begins to feel something drip on him. He looks up and he sees Icarus. Icarus, in his youthful exuberance, is going up and down because while the freedom is great, the act of flying is even better. He catches this updraft of warm air and begins to get closer and closer to the sun. And then he begins to realize that all of his feathers are slowly flying away. He looks at his wings, and all it is the wooden frames. And he begins to fall until he hits the ocean. It's gone immediately. Daedalus witnesses the whole thing and flies down to see Icarus, flies down hoping that his son has survived this, but knowing the fall that he has taken, it's unlikely. He gets down there and finds his son dead, gone. Sure, he escapes. He gets to the land by himself, but to what avail? It's by himself. He's lost his son in the process and will now live alone the rest of his life. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that is not nearly as sensational as the last couple weeks. The last couple weeks we've talked about things like privilege and partisanship. And today we are talking about Sabbath, which again isn't as sensational, but the ramifications of doing it poorly or getting it wrong is equally as detrimental to our well-being. I think typically when we think about this idea of Sabbath, we typically do it in one of two ways. If you're unfamiliar with what Sabbath is, let me backtrack. Sabbath is basically a day of the week that we take and we don't work. We stop what we're doing. We stop working. Set aside. And I think a lot of times we approach that day of the week in one or two ways. I think the first way that maybe a lot of us approach it is we say, I don't have time for that. I don't do that. I don't slow down. Like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, napping's for the week. Like, why would I stop that? That's not going to help me get to where I want to be. We fail to understand that through that we are living as Icarus, failing to understand our limitations that may ultimately lead to our demise. There's others of us in this room that lean towards the other side, and we create this legalistic system of Sabbath. Sabbath is about me. It's about what I get out of this. No one better be in need in front of me on Sabbath. They better be one of the other 6 days of the week, because if it's on the Sabbath, I'm not going to help them. We place our habits before love, and we become full of legalism. Not even realizing that really what we're doing is living out Daedalus's life. We don't see the person in need around us because we're just so focused on ourselves and so focused on our own desires. Both of these approaches to Sabbath ultimately will burn us, if we're honest. The first will lead us to a place of burnout where we are just exhausted and have nothing left to give. And the second leaves us to a place of isolation where we have no one left around us because all we've cared about is ourselves and our pursuit of us. So then, how do we find a healthy approach to Sabbath? How do we turn the gym, if you will, connecting it to our series on this idea of Sabbath and shift our understanding of what it is away from these two extremes that don't help us? Today I want to give 4 basic principles that relate to both humanity and Sabbath that will help us just understand what we need to do in order to live out Sabbath in our lives. The first is this, is that humanity is finite. Everyone's like, well, duh, we all know that. The reality is that not all of us live that way. I mean, we live in ways as if we're going to be here forever. In the first chapters of the Bible, we find the first moments where we read about Sabbath and rest. In the first chapter, it discusses the creation of the world. And while creation could be a conversation that we could have on this Turning the Gym series, we're not going to get there today or in this series about what actually happened in those first 7 days. But let me just walk through what happens to show you how quickly Sabbath enters the picture. On day 1, this is all